And let me tell you, we are super excited to announce a brand new tool for our after school and out of school time programs in the state of Nevada to help them assess for themselves their own quality and how they're doing. So before we get started, I'll introduce myself really quick. Hi, since you're going to be hearing my voice quite a bit today. My name is Amaris Knight, and I am the network lead for the Nevada Afterschool Network. You're going to hear a little bit about the network and what we can do, but just know that if you do have any questions during today's presentation, please go ahead and put them in the chat. There will be some time at the end for a Q&A session. If you are not speaking, please make sure to keep your microphone on mute just so everybody is able to hear what's going on today and we can have as few distractions as possible. I apologize in advance for my somewhat noisy dogs. Hopefully they won't make any kind of sounds while I'm talking to you today. And then last but not least, we have some prizes for you, which I'm sure is the whole reason why you're here. And our winners are going to be announced at the end of our presentation. So please make sure you stick around until the end. You do need to be here in order to win. So if we call your name and you're not here, we're going on to the next person. All right, and so now all of that business is out of the way. Let's go ahead and start today's presentation. I first want to thank our partners at the Washoe County School District, Children's Cabinet, 21st Century Programs at NDE, City of Las Vegas, and Nevada PEP for joining us today to help us understand the importance of quality, why we even want to use a program quality self-assessment tool, and for all of their hard work and time spent in helping the Nevada Afterschool Network develop this tool and get it into your hands. And so in case you're wondering, who is the Nevada Afterschool Network? Who are these people that keep sending us all these emails? Well, let me tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So we are one of 50 state networks that's funded by the Mott Foundation. So there's one of us in all 50 states. And we work to provide opportunities, increase access, and promote quality in out-of-school time programs in Nevada. Our structural network is made through the development of cooperative partnerships because we want to provide you as our after-school and out-of-school time program providers with high-quality technical support, professional development, opportunities for sustainable funding, and a platform for advocacy to promote strong policy for our out-of-school time programs at the local, county, regional, and state level. So long story short, we have a lot of great resources, materials, tools, and sometimes like awesome, cool, fun stuff that we want to give to you as programs to make sure that all of our kids throughout the state have access to it. So if you're ever in need of something for your program and you're not quite sure where to find it, please feel free to reach out to us, because if we don't have it or have access to it, then we can probably figure out who does. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first guest presenter today, Danielle Holmes from the Children's Cabinet, to talk to us about why quality matters.
Thank you, Amaris. Good morning, everybody. My name is Danielle Holmes, and I'm the Las Vegas Operations Director at the Children's Cabinet. So I oversee one of our offices in Las Vegas and support all the programming that we do. We have a lot of different programs to actually help improve quality in programs, and we help families and improve the quality of their interactions. I did want to point out one of the programs that we have in particular to help out of school time programs improve quality is we have a lot of professional development options. So we teach classes for the before and after school programs and really like to help support you. So I did want to share that. Next slide, please, Amaris. All right, so why does program quality matter? That is what we're talking about today. So quality programs are vital to ensure the safety and well-being of children and families they serve. And we are true believers of that. We are here to support all of you with quality and to just help improve your programs. Next slide, please. All right, so now I want to talk about the what continuous quality improvement is and why it's important. I like to talk about, it's a process to ensure programs are systematically and intentionally improving services. And we want to help increase positive outcomes for children and the families that you serve. It's proactive and not reactive. I think this is a really important piece. And why is it important to be proactive versus reactive? Well, when you're proactive, issues can become non-issues. And possibly one of the most useful advantages of being proactive rather than reactive is that when you're proactive, you're going to spend more time planning and preparing for the future than dealing with emergencies and putting fires out. Continuous quality improvement is one in which data is collected and used to make positive changes, even when things are going well, rather than waiting for something to go wrong and fixing it. Often I like to talk about, it is a different lens that you can use when you use a tool to look at continuous quality improvement, because you're not, sometimes we see the same things every day and we feel like we're doing, the very best that we can. And when we use a tool to help look at continuous quality improvement, it helps us use a different lens and to see other things on how we can improve. Next slide, please. All right. So continuous quality improvement can help you identify all of these things. What is working well, what improvements are needed, what we can do to improve upon our current practices. Is there maybe another approach that might work better? Sometimes we just do things because that's how we do them. And sometimes it's hard to stop and think of other approaches that might work better. What do we need to do? What do we need to know and learn to improve our services for children and families? And I always like to talk about this. Quality is continuous and ongoing. It's not just quality for a day, like if you feel like you're doing an assessment, just having that quality for a day and just pulling out all of your tricks and ideas. It's continuous and it's ongoing. So next slide, please. So this slide addresses the barriers to quality. And as you can see, the slide lists 6 different barriers. The first one is staff. And this isn't a secret in our field. We know that we have high turnover for our frontline staff. We don't have enough staff. And sometimes our staff are untrained and having to learn new skills for a new position, and that takes time. The second barrier is inconsistent supervision across the agency. Leaders do need to set expectations with all staff. The third one is limited professional development. We all know professional development is valuable, but often it's not prioritized. The fourth one is varied values and priorities. And the fifth one is funding demands. Sometimes we have so many different expectations from funding sources, so we follow whatever the strictest requirements are across the board. And then the sixth one is varied resource access. Not all programs have access to the funds and materials staff or resources need to meet the quality standards. Next slide, please. So how can we address these barriers? We have some solutions for you. All right, so the first solution at the very top, the red one, is define it. What is quality? What does quality look like for your program? That's a question that I like to ask new staff coming in when we're interviewing. If you walk into a program, what determines quality? What do you look for? The second one is standardize it. Set your standards. What are the metrics you want your program to meet and be able to say your program is high quality? The third one is train people on what those standards and what quality looks like in a program. And then the fourth one is observe it. Observe what's happening in the program and how things are going. And this should be done multiple times with feedback from a variety of groups. So not just a once a year, I observed my classrooms and everything seemed fine that day. You know, be present and observe the programs. And then the last one is celebrate or improve it. If your observations meet the metrics and standards you set for your program, celebrate your successes with your team. Help everyone feel part of the process and allow them to take pride in their work. If your observations show a need for improvement, develop a plan with your team and how you want to address these needs. Next slide, please. All right, so quality standards are a foundational aspect of an after-school program where the goal is to ensure that all youth have access to high-quality programs. Quality standards can unite a diverse after-school community by establishing a shared vision of quality that matches the unique resources and needs of the state. As we know, I don't know if everybody's native to Nevada, but I come from a different state and I understand that every state has their standards and what their programs can have. These standards are also advanced in common language to discuss elements of quality. And so with the shared vision and common language in hand, the after-school community can begin to offer supports, professional development, assessments, and more that are designed to support after-school quality programs, excuse me. Next slide, please. All right, so why should you use a quality assessment tool? Very important. They can help you make observations. They're a tool to help your program grow stronger by reflecting on strengths and areas that need improvement. And it helps you brainstorm solutions to better serve the children and youth K through 12. It can be a useful tool to gather sufficient data to effectively engage stakeholders in meaningful conversations about program quality and continuous quality improvement. And it can also help you create an action plan that identifies immediate, mid-range, and long-term professional development and technical support needed to enhance your program. And I love those 3 icons on the right. I can do this, I'm getting there, and I need help. Next slide, please. All right, and I love this quote. It does not take much strength to do things, but it requires great strength to decide on what to do. I like to share that quote with people. And to me, continuous quality improvement is a strength-based approach. It's a tool that can really help you enhance your program. Now I'm going to turn this presentation over to Denise Benson, who is a district administrator for the Washoe County School District, and she oversees the 21st century programs in the district. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So yes, I'm Denise Benson from Washoe County School District. Just a quick little bit about our district and our 21st century programs. We've got 23 elementary schools and 2 middle schools. And I'm proud to say I have an amazing team of site leaders that work with our students every single day and our families. Just a quick little history about NAN. NAN has been in existence over 10 years. And the first draft of our out of school time program quality standards actually started around 2014. It has since been revised to meet more expanded topics such as equity, diversity, and even pandemic. So we look at this tool as something that's probably going to morph over time, depending on how our environment changes and our culture. So I think we're going to start with the next slide. So here's how our Nevada program quality standards have been organized. We've got youth and development and social emotional learning. We have health, safety, and security of the physical environment, program management and professional development, and then program structure, curriculum, and activities. And a couple of things that we want you to know about this are that The quality after school program should really focus on improving children and youth performance in school. It should help reduce the incidence of delinquency and gang-related activities. We also want to allow parents and guardians to work without worrying, knowing that their children are a safe and welcoming environment. We also know in Nevada, we have lots of different after-school programs, some that are funded through 21st Century, some are like agencies, municipalities, and even boys and girls clubs. But every program is different, and they serve numbers of diverse youth from multiple age ranges, operating in settings where they receive varying degrees of support from the community and resources. Regardless of the individual specific sites, all after-school programs share common elements that ultimately influence the quality of services provided to their youth and the families that they engage with. So our first category here is the youth development and social emotional learning. You can kind of see the other little pieces that relate to that on the side there. We want to think about, developing and nurturing and maintaining positive relationships and interactions among our staff, our participants, which are students, parents, and our community members. And we want to provide opportunities for students and youth, or children and youth, to actively participate in positive relationship development, and also establish strong partnerships with families and communities and that fully support children and youth. And I think the main key here is it's really about relationships, so building those positive relationships with both our participants, our students, our parents, and engaging, local community members to be a part of the development of our program quality. So in our health and safety and security physical environment, one key piece here is the written policy and procedures that programs, and I'm sorry, Amaris, my chat here is covering up all my slides. Give me a second. Written policies and procedures that are provided to staff and families that promote the well-being, safety, and security of all of the staff and families and youth. And in our district, we're always trying to really ensure that we have a welcoming environment for both, staff, our staff, our students, and our families who come and pick up their students every day. We also know that the key to our students' social emotional learning piece is providing healthy meals and providing those physical activities for them daily. It is really important that we always have an emergency preparedness plan, and this includes fire drills, earthquakes, which are part of Nevada, and in our area we have wildfires. So all those things are important. Internet safety too. We also realizing that it's appropriate to really, monitor what kids are doing on the internet. A lot of our programs now have one-to-one laptops or have at least some kind of computers available to them. And the last part is that safe storage of medications and hazardous materials and ensuring the safety of our students and our staff. So on program management and professional development, I kind of look at this as you can see it's plan, define, design, construct, testing, deploy, and support. And with this, I always look at it as this is a continuous process. We are always redefining what our professional development is to meet the needs of our staff and our programs, because they're always developing into and morphing into something new. So it's important to have a defined infrastructure that supports intentional planning, ensures smooth program operations, a positive working conditions for our staff and supervisors, encouraging support and feedback, and written policies and procedures to promote and support ongoing staff professional development. So like I said, every year our PD may be the same because we want to keep some of those consistent practices in place, but we also find that with the ever-changing environment and culture that we also need to provide new and better ways of doing things. So then on program structure, program structure, curriculum, and activities, we want to support staff efforts to plan and implement intentional program activities that support youth physical, social, emotional, and cognitive growth, and provide an environment and curriculum that engages all youth, regardless of language, culture, and ability. And in our department supporting our programs, we really are encouraging our site leaders to do long range planning so that they can have a well thought out program, that they have weekly schedules for their staff. That includes, lesson plans and curriculum that align to, national standards for like science, for instance, and then making sure, as we said before, emphasizing that we're engaging all youth and considering diversity, equity, and inclusion practices when we plan for those activities. And then now I'd like to introduce Kendra Gibson from Nevada PEP, and she'll be leading the next discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys hear me? So my name is Kendra Gibson. I am the Family Voice Facilitator at Nevada PEP, the parent of a wonderful 15-year-old daughter. We often collaborate on several committees at Nevada PEP, what landed me here. So I try to bring a different perspective, but a little bit about Nevada PEP first. We support families that have children with disabilities from birth to 26 years of age. So that spans the early childhood, adolescent, teenage, and into adulthood in their lifespan. Again, we work throughout the state. We're a statewide organization. And a key thing that we do, one of the key areas besides trainings and supporting parents one-on-one, is we provide the family and parent perspective, again, on several committees throughout the state. So I tried to bring a little bit of a different aspect to learning about the importance of family engagement from the parent perspective, because I'm sure that it is not a new idea for most of you. So we can jump into the next slide, get started. So one key thing about family engagement and the importance of it is, honestly, it's a best practice. I could not think of anything else to put under that outside of the idea that it's just best practice when you're working with children and youth to engage families. So the practice of family engagement, it's important in multiple domains, including education, child welfare, behavioral health, and early childhood, just to name a few domains. Anytime you're working with children and youth, the bigger picture really is the family. So then engaging families is really an important aspect of working with children and youth. So I got an example. In education, family engagement is regarded as a best practice. Decades of research has shown that parent involvement and engagement is a powerful influence on children's educational success. So when families are involved in their child's education, data has indicated increases in student achievement, student attendance and behavior, social emotional growth and skills, and increased graduation rates. This information was taken from the IRIS Center, their presentation on family engagement, collaborating with families of students with disabilities. So parents want the best for their children, and they really want to be a part of their child's development and growth. Again, it's in the literature. It's really a best practice when you have a program where you work with children and youth. We can go to the next slide. So some of you may be familiar with the term system of care, sometimes called SOC for short. You may have been to a training on it at some point in time. The system of care is defined as a spectrum of effective community-based services and supports for children and youth who are at risk of mental health or other challenges and their families. It's organized into a coordinated network. It builds meaningful partnerships with families and youth, and it addresses their cultural and linguistic needs in order to help them function better at home, in school, in the community, and throughout their life. The system of care, or SOC, is not a service. It's really a way of doing business, so to speak. So in Nevada, we have adopted the system of care for children and youth services. So this means that we work together as a collective community to adhere to those system of care values and principles. And as you can see on the screen, these are the 3 values of a system of care. And one there, that first one is family driven, very important component of a system of care. Without going into too much depth or any other information about the system of care, I really mentioned it here to say that this is the reason that family engagement is important when working with children and youth in out-of-school programs, right? It aligns with that family-driven value in an SOC. We can go to the next slide. So there are several benefits to engaging families. One of them is helping the development of children at many levels, including social, emotional, helps them gain life skills, independence, and conflict resolution, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, just to name a few. So when parents participate in engagement programs, they also take that information home to help generalize what they've learned, that their children are learning in these settings. Another benefit, it creates a system of trust. Parents love being in the loop, don't we all? We want to know what our children are doing when they're away from us. And if you have a child or children, you know how well they communicate what goes on when they're away from us. They don't go into a lot of detail. So it's great to have out-of-school providers communicate and engage parents in their processes and programs and activities, what they're working on. That way, when parents know what's going on, they feel like they're a part of the process, right? It really helps build that trust with the entire family. It also provides new experiences. So out-of-school programs are creative. They utilize some of the latest technology, or they teach what the latest technology is teaching. STEM is very popular right now. And in general, it provides positive childhood experiences. So when you engage families, it allows them to be a part of understanding what the latest information is out there. And again, it keeps them in the loop. Another benefit is it links families to services. So family engagement activities allows parents to know what's available in their community, and it connects them to those much needed services and support sometimes. We can go to the next slide. So there can be barriers to families engaging in engagement activities. However, family engagement itself supports them when they experience those barriers. So some of the barriers that families may experience, transportation, always something that parents can experience, and it might not even be that they don't have transportation. It could even be their vehicle going in the shop. I think we all have experienced that interruption and how wonderful it is when we're trying to continue on with our lives. So that can be a barrier for parents. Work schedules, of course. I support quite a few parents throughout the state right now, moms in particular, that work long 12-hour shifts at the hospital. And some of those shifts are overnight. So during the day, as much as they want to be amazing moms and put that cape on their back, they do need to sleep sometimes. Childcare, there are other children. Sometimes they have multiple children in different out-of-school programs, and picking where you're going to go at what time could be a barrier for families. Negative attitudes about families. I have heard this one from families where they say, you know, I really don't go because I don't feel welcomed, or I don't feel like I'm a part of the group. And I see a lot of that, particularly at Nevada PEP, because a lot of the parents that call us have children with disabilities. So they don't often feel included. They feel isolated, and like programs aren't really sensitive to their child's needs and their family's needs. Poor communication sometimes, and I think certainly all of us have made the effort to communicate best as we can the last couple of years. So I'm sure we have some creative ways to communicate and engage families, but sometimes that can be a barrier as well. Parents wanting to know what's going on and just feel like they can't get a hold of someone at the program that their child is in. Sometimes scheduling of events don't work out for their schedule, and the lack of opportunity or encouragement to participate in what their child is doing. So those are some of the barriers that families experience. It's going to be different depending on your community and honestly what you're hearing from families. So listening to what they're telling you is important as well, listening to their concerns. So we talked about the barriers, but there are supports to those barriers. One of them is communication, right? Maybe having a provision of a specific contact person at the center that handles or that communicates with parents on a frequent basis. Notification of parents when something was wrong, or if their child's health or concerns, behaviors. Parents do want to know what's going on there, as well as they want to know the successes, the good things. Again, especially when children maybe have a diagnosis where behavior is a part of that diagnosis or disability, they certainly are going to want to hear the good things that their children are doing as well. Flexible scheduling of meetings, do what you can. Sometimes, you know, a center maybe cannot work outside of a certain time frame, but wherever you can, schedule meetings at times that parents can participate. Again, that's communication, talking to them about the type of schedule they have, in the events that they want to engage in, and where you can have some flexibility. Again, the pandemic, I think, has taught us a lot. Be creative. Maybe some of those engagement activities can be online, and it'll be easier for parents to participate. Comfortable and private spaces for meetings. Promote return of phone calls. Another thing I hear often from parents, they call and say, well, I tried. I called so many times and didn't get a return call. So just making sure that you're in, listen, we're all busy. You guys are working, right? Maybe during those times that calls are coming in, being creative. Maybe it goes out in an email or text message, and just talk to the parent. Let them know, you know what, during these times when you call, we can't come to the phone, because there are absolutely those parents that need to talk to you often. So finding something with them that works. And then inclusion of caregivers' comments in the child's records, support for transition into or out of services and programs. And just a couple of other additional tips and strategies. A suggestion box or a log. This can also be an online form on your web page, where they can go and leave comments or suggestions. Have a website or a web page on your website that's dedicated to information about family engagement activities for families, and maybe that's where the link can be for them to provide feedback. Strike up conversations, you know, upon arrival and drop off or pickup times. You know, be genuine. You know, how are you doing? How are things going? Parents really love that. That's probably not new information. Parents love to talk. Yes, you might have to cut them off, but that's off the record. Don't tell them I said that, right? Because I'm representing the parent voice, but absolutely strike conversations with them, and work with children and youth to plan and host parent participation events. So some of those family engagement events involve the youth and children at your program to be a part of planning what that looks like. Makes parents feel amazing. Those are just some strategies. Really, I think it's communication, because you know your communities and the families that you work with, and communicating with them on what works is really key. We can go to the next slide. Build strong relationships, very, very important. So one area is communication. Share good news about children and youth with parents. Be creative, meet with parents where they are, send emails, text messages, provide written note upon pickup. Do what works for you. Certainly not trying to create more work for any of you. Some of this can even be maybe massive emails on a listover where you just send out, this is what we worked on during the week, so that it's not something where you have to go and do hours of work, right? You click a button, it goes out, they get the information, something easy. Speak to parents, make the effort to greet them by name, acknowledge every parent so no one feels left out or secluded. Inform parents of opportunities to participate in family engagement activities and center-based events, provide new family orientations and invite current families to participate in presenting and sharing their experiences. Another area is being supportive and understanding. Offer frequent training and staff development to new and current staff on best practices in family engagement. Hire staff that reflect the cultural makeup of your community and the services, and being a part of the services when possible. Hire qualified parents if possible. I noticed that a lot of parents sometimes will go into education or childcare because that is a place where their child or youth participated. And then include parent leaders. Encourage parent leadership by offering participation in community and center-based events. Again, you will see those parents that are around often. They're offering to volunteer. Some of those will be parent leaders that don't mind maybe taking a lot of that parent engagement activities, being creative, speaking with parents. Maybe they are the person that communicates with parents some information, and include parents in the decision-making process where you can, right? Where it's feasible and allowable. And of course, solicit their feedback, talk to them, communicate, see what suggestions they have and good ideas, and incorporate them where you can. We can go to the next slide. So just to wrap up a bit here, so there's a couple key points about family engagement. It's a best practice with support throughout the literature demonstrating benefits. One key concept of family engagement is family-driven, which is a part of the system of care, one of the system of care's core values. And there are levels of family engagement. Be creative in your approach and include families' ideas in planning engagement activities and having them be a part of the process where you can. And family engagement doesn't just happen. You do have to be intentional, but make it a part of your organizational culture. We can go to the next slide. And again, wrapping it up with the last key things about family engagement. Families do experience barriers, but there are ways to support them to overcome those barriers. And that's just getting down, communicating with families and getting their feedback, incorporating that where you can. And I think that is my last slide. That's right. All right, handing it over to Amaris.
Thank you, Kendra. A lot of these strategies that that Kendra just mentioned are great for our programs, and like she said, you're going to know your family's best, and so it's really important to talk with them and find out how they want and need to be involved in your program. And so we've heard a lot so far about what quality is, how we're supposed to figure that out, why it's important, and why programs should even care about improving their own quality. And so as the Nevada Afterschool Network, we want to provide you with a free tool that your program can use however you see fit. You can use it multiple times as a self-assessment for quality where you're at in the present moment. And so we recommend that a program quality improvement team be assembled to oversee the implementation of this assessment tool and develop a continuous improvement plan. You want to include program leadership, parents, representatives from schools, if you're school-based or linked with a school for your program. Also include the participants that attend your programs and activities, and any other stakeholders that you feel need to have a voice in this process. These quality improvement team members are encouraged to take notes, jot down ideas, plan next steps in the spaces that are provided on this tool. You can use extra paper, it's okay, you won't be upset. But we did try to provide you with lots and lots of opportunities within the tool itself to jot down all of your notes. And so the process for utilizing this tool, we're going to go over shortly, but we are highly encouraging you as after school and out of school time programs throughout the state to conduct a program self-assessment because it is the best way to understand where your program is, what are some of the goals for your program, where do you want to be in the future, whether that's 6 months down the line, a year, 5 years, and then create an action plan for yourself for how you're going to get there. So what does this tool look like? Step one, we have some standards and indicators for you. At the end of today's presentation, you're going to get a link to our program toolkit that you are able to download for free. I'm also going to walk you through a little bit of our website that has a lot of this information for you to take in bits and pieces and use how you see fit. There's a lot of introductory material in the actual toolkit itself that we're not going to go through today, but you are welcome to read through on your own. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. But we do have a list of indicators in the 4 main categories that Denise talked about earlier, right? Our youth development, social emotional learning, health, safety, and security, program management, and professional development, and then finally our curriculum, activities, and the structure of the program itself. So you're going to see we have our indicators of quality right here. They're all numbered for you. And then we have a rubric by which you're able to determine where your program fits. So each of the examples that are given in this rubric are meant to help you understand where you think your program is in this moment in terms of this specific indicator, right? And so what that rubric does is provide points depending on, again, where you think you fit. Developing, operational, advancing, or excelling, or if maybe that indicator isn't applicable to your program, or if you're the person filling this form out and you're like, I don't know, and we don't have a way to observe this indicator, and so I really can't tell where we're at. If that's the case, that's okay. It helps to identify some areas of need in which maybe your program needs to rethink how it goes about providing those indicators, right? Or being able to observe them and how you incorporate that into your program. And so when you're looking at a self-assessment tool and you see all of these indicators on one side and you see this big scoring rubric and you're like, how am I supposed to know where I fit in and where my program fits in? Well, there's quite a few methods for you to be able to assess your current program's qualities in accordance with the standards in this tool. So some examples here are a review of your program's documentation, right? Take a look at some of your files, your past newsletters and checklists. Take a look at the lesson plans and curriculum that you have. grab snippets of the communications that have gone out to parents and to youth, so that you have some tangible, observable evidence of, oh yeah, look, we did send a newsletter out to parents, every single month for the past 3 years. And oh wait, we sent home, a letter with students, but we only sent it home in English. We didn't send it home in Spanish. And we kind of only sent one like whenever there was no schedule. So those are some of the things that you can take a look at to determine where you feel like you fit in this process. Observations are great, and you can observe pieces of your program on your own. You can assign one of your staff to do observations for parts of your program that they oversee, or you can even bring somebody in from the outside, whether that's a parent of a participating youth, another community stakeholder that works with quality programs and helping to improve quality. It's great to bring in multiple perspectives, because different people are going to see things a little bit differently depending on their experience and expertise, right? So some of the things that you'd like to observe are, what do your activities in your program look like? What is the structure of the classroom or activity space? How many adults, chaperones, staff are in there with X number of kids? Is there adequate supervision? What does transition time look like between activities? If kids are moving to different classrooms or different buildings or from inside to outside, what are some ways in which, not just that you have adequate supervision, but like, how are the youth encouraged to make the most of that transition time? Is there a way for them to engage in conversations with other youth that are different from their cohort? Or is there any kind of relationship building activity from one place to another between youth and staff? Right? So these are just some ideas of what you can observe. Another big thing you want to take a look at is, what are the interactions like between staff and participants, between staff and each other, and staff and parents or community members? Taking a look at how all of these different players get along and interact with each other will also give you a really good idea of where you fit in some of these quality indicators. Some last methods first. There's tons of assessment methods, but the last ones that we're going to talk about today are, if you're not quite sure where you fit on a quality scale, maybe ask, right? You want to interview people like staff, the actual youth participating in the program. Again, if you're linked with a school administrators and personnel, the families of the youth that participate, and maybe families of youth that haven't been able to participate as well. And then the community at large, right? Their voices are really important for us to get an objective idea of how our programs and activities and staff are affecting and impacting the youth that we work with. And so again, if you don't know, ask, right? And if you need some ways on how to do that, if you're looking for, let's say templates of a survey that you can send out to your staff, or resources for how to connect with families to get surveys done, you can always reach out to Nan. We have those resources available for you, and we're happy to walk you through them. All right, so another big piece of our self-assessment toolkit that you'll see is a scoring sheet in which you get to rate each indicator for your program. So each of these indicators are going to match up with the indicators that are higher in our standards. So you'll be able to match number for number where you want your ratings to go. You can provide a score of 0 through 4, 1 through 4 for each of our rubric steps, the developing, operational, advanced, excelling, or a 0 score for we're not sure, or it doesn't apply to our program, right? There's also space for you to provide examples of how you observed that indicator in your program over here. And that's really important, because if you're doing this together with a team, there are going to be some different observations coming in from each members of the team. And one person may see things that others don't. So if you're able to write them down and record them, it's something that you can all discuss together as a group. Each scoring sheet also has space available for you to take a look at the indicators on that page and maybe jot down ideas for an action plan, right? So let's take an example. We have right here, staff uses positive guidance techniques with children and youth. What are some of the observations that you made that shows, you know what, I'm going to put us at advancing. We do make positive interactions and we do have some guidance with children and youth. I don't think that we're at excelling yet because only some of our staff do it, but not all of our staff. Like our program, like our activity leaders do it, but like our maintenance staff don't. They're doing their job, they're focused, right? So if we were an excelling program, it would be all staff, our activity leaders, our administrators, our maintenance staff, even some of our part-time workers that only come in once a week. So what are some action steps that we can take to help us move into that excelling category? Well, we can provide organization-wide training on what positive guidance techniques are. You know, maybe we don't have the time to do an organization-wide training, but we can send out a memo to say, hey, starting next month, we encourage all of our people to engage in these techniques at these times. Right? And then when there is time for training, then that's when you can implement things like that. There's also space for you to identify like, well, we're not really sure what positive guidance techniques look like, or maybe there's a bunch that we're not doing. So let's write that down in our technical assistance and training column needed so that we have a record of how to go back and ask people, you know, who's the best trainer for some of these things? Who can we get to come in here and provide support? Answer, Nevada Afterschool Network and our clan. We can help, right? So another great aspect of this tool is, you know, just the ability to do this for every category that you have, and to make sure that, you know, every member of your team is on board and they can all have something to refer back to. So it's not just based on memory alone. And so like Denise mentioned earlier, we do have our 4 main categories, right? And this tool is designed so that, let's say this summer, you only wanted to focus on program management and professional development. You can do that. You don't have to complete the entire tool at one time. It's a lot. There's a lot of indicators, we understand, and your time is limited. And so if you only wanted to focus on one category, you could. If you have the time or you have the need and you want to do a complete assessment, you can do that too, right? There's also the ability for you to total your entire score for all 4 categories, just to give you an idea of overall as a program, where do you think you fit right now in this moment? And once you have those scores down, right, there's a template for an action plan that you can make for your program. Programs, that's what we're talking about, right? And so you want to identify areas of strength and those that need development so that you can set goals and timelines, be able to find the resources that will help you achieve those goals, and assign responsibility for these strategies. Because if your programs are anything like some of our groups that we work with, everybody has great ideas for improvement. And we have awesome ideas for prioritizing what we need to do first. And then as soon as we ask the question, all right, so who's going to do it? Everyone is, I don't know, right? So we want to make sure that in these plans, there are assignments. There is some kind of accountability. And it doesn't all have to fall on one person's shoulders. You can assign buddies or teams or make it a group project, but at least that way you can figure out, all right, who do we want our point person to be and what kind of dates are we looking like? And again, depending on your goal and how extensive that goal is, your potential date for completing this goal could be a couple weeks from now. It could be a couple months. It could be a year, couple of years. It really all just depends on the needs of your program. So you want to make sure you prioritize those needs and address the goals in mind that maybe you felt you scored the lowest on. So you can bring all of your categories up to an advanced or an excelling phase, right? And you also want to think about setting realistic deadlines. What are some of the things that you can do right now to address some of your goals or areas of need for the program? What can you do this year? And then what can you do next year or in a couple of years, right? And so I'm sure some of you are thinking like, oh no, the network's going to come in and they're going to start observing us and doing evaluations. No, we're not. That is not the purpose of this toolkit. This is a tool for you as after school and out of school time programs to take for yourself and use however you see fit. So you want to customize the way in which you use this toolkit, because we know not every program is going to look the same, right? An after school all-stars or YMCA or Boys and Girls Club program that has multiple sites, right, across different communities is going to approach something like this toolkit very, very differently than a home-based after school program that's family run. And so we want you to be able to use this tool for what you need it for and customize the process. This is a self-assessment. We are not going to come in and do, external evaluations. That's not the goal for this toolkit. This is also not anything that's mandated at the state or district or regional level, so you don't have to worry about that. There is no public rating scale for school age after school time right now. Wink, wink. Right? And you want to use this toolkit to create your own plan for improvement. Your plan is not going to look like the next program's plan, right? So we encourage you to determine the technical assistance and professional development needs that you have to meet the individual goals of your program, and then come find us. Connect with Nan to get those resources that you need. If you need program-specific professional development, hit us up, let us know. And if we can't make that happen for you, then we know people who can. And we'll be able to connect you with those resources and materials and information and training and all of that good stuff. All right. And so now that you know what the tool is, how you can use it, let's find out a little bit about what this looks like in practice. We were fortunate enough to have quite a few programs pilot out this tool for us last fall and give us some really great feedback to make it the tool that it is for you today. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sharita Rogers from City of Las Vegas to tell us about her experience in utilizing this toolkit to do a quick self-assessment of her program.
Thank you for the introduction. So yes, like she said, sometimes you might think, oh, what is the network going to do next with this? But definitely that is not the purpose. It's definitely a tool to help our programs. And so like she said, my name is Sharita Rogers and I'm with the City of Las Vegas. I help to oversee our Safe Key and Reinvent after school programs, which we provide before and after school care at several of the schools, local elementary schools throughout the Valley. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to participate in the pilot study and definitely had some takeaways from that I'd love to share with you all today. So we also have our Batteries Included and Batteries Included Next Gen programs here at the city, which is more before and after school care, well, after school care primarily for the middle school age. But we did the pilot study as it relates to our elementary programs, but definitely the information can kind of cross over depending on the individuality of your programs. Use the information how you see best fit. So if you want to go ahead and go to the first slide. I'll talk about that. And I know we're wrapping up and we're kind of running into the end of our time, so I won't belabor the moment. And but if anyone has any questions, of course, we'll have an opportunity for you guys to connect with us afterwards and offline about some specific things. So as far as our experience with utilizing the tool for the first time, so just as some background information for the City of Las Vegas, we currently operate our Safe Key program at 69 Clark County School District elementary school sites here in Las Vegas, providing before and after school enrichment programming. And so one of the things that really sets us apart and one of the things that we are definitely proud of is that we don't just we're not a babysitting service, so we definitely do our best to incorporate enrichment activities, including STEAM, nutrition, arts and craft projects, as well as special guest presenters. We also have the coordinated approach to teaching health, which is part of our CATCH program. And so a typical day in any one of our programs across all of our regions include afternoon snack, homework time and reading time. We also have recreation time and enrichment activities as such, like I just previously discussed. So our morning programs typically last approximately 2 hours. So anywhere from 6:30 or 7 a.m. until the morning bell, which typically is around 9 o'clock in the morning. Our afternoon programs are approximately 3 to 4 hours long. So we have some sites that start at 2 in the afternoon and others that start just after 3 p.m. And so about 4 hours of programming time on average. So part of the pilot study, we did a sampling of our programs to include one school from each of our 4 geographic regions. So, sorry, did I say 4? I meant to say 6. So we currently have all of the schools that are within the city of Las Vegas jurisdiction. We have them divided geographically to make up 6 different regions. And so we did an observation at one school in each of those regions. And so that was helpful for us in kind of getting a broad range and a good spectrum of what our programs look like in order to utilize the tool and to come up with some valid information, some really a good comprehensive list of information and notes to take away from our observations. So on the next slide, we'll talk about how we composed our committee when we utilized the tool. So it was really important for us to have people that know our work very well, as well as others that don't. So we did have a new team member, someone that was new to our team and that was not very familiar with all of our program sites or the ins and outs and details of how our program operate. And we found that really helpful to just have a different perspective. We also think it's really important to be sure to include people that have access to the information related to the question. So as was described in the previous presentation, in particular, the file review portion. So it's obviously not going to be helpful if someone doesn't have access to that information to be able to provide some feedback for that. So the files for review as well as policies and procedures. So we realize that sometimes people at different levels of the organization may not be aware of certain documents or may not have as easy access to different policies, procedures, and documents that might be helpful in reviewing as part of the assessment. So just making sure that you have a variety of staff, so lower level staff, upper level staff, management, supervisors in that process. So also definitely helpful to select people who have different viewpoints and welcome their differences in opinions when discussing the observations and scoring. So again, from different perspectives, just being open to all of those different viewpoints is definitely going to be helpful. Choose people who have nothing to lose by being completely honest in their feedback because you want the diversity. So again, just really speaking to the fact that as much as you can diversify your committee, I think it'll be a little bit more beneficial because you do get those different perspectives from different levels and different viewpoints. So also choose people who are committed, easily accessible, and able to follow through. So as you may know, as an OST provider, there's those challenges of people coming, people going, and just having other commitments. And so making sure that it's someone that is going to be able to do the observation, to have the discussion, and then also possibly be a part of the follow-up plan. So for us, we really wanted our team members who would be able to make it a priority once we decided to move forward with it, identified our estimated timeline, and then we're able to actually commit to the task. And then lastly, as it relates to composing the committee, we included staff from different levels for our particular participation in the pilot study. So we did include someone from management. We included our region supervisors from some of our regions, assistants from our regions, as well as our SNAC and financial aid administrator, and our administrative assistant, who was the one that was very new to our organization. So that was really helpful to have different people on those different levels be a part. So the next slide, we will talk about the pre-planning phase of it. So it is very important to plan ahead of time to limit confusion and avoid feeling overwhelmed. So again, there were some slides and information prior to mine that spoke a little bit about that pre-planning part of it, but really emphasizing that that part is important. Utilize the information from page 5 in the tool. So in the tool, it's a section specifically titled Using the Program Self-Assessment Tool. So review that in advance and use the team approach and take notes. So all of those things that are outlined there, use that for your benefit. So definitely use that information as a tool. So I know sometimes we kind of just want to jump right in, or we want to just get going with it, but really taking the time to step back and go through the instructions and start from the beginning was helpful for us. So many of the questions that may come up are already answered in the tool. So that's why we recommend starting at the beginning with that information. And then consider having a committee meeting to review prior to review and discuss the tool and objectives prior to doing any of the observation portions. So for us, it was really helpful just to get our committee all on the same page in regards to the tool, because it was new to all of us. And so just having a brief discussion about what the purpose of the tool is, similar to this entire presentation. So just kind of having that discussion and how it can be used to our benefit, what it entails, and then giving team members an opportunity to ask any questions and being able to answer those questions all together so that we were all hearing and saying the same thing and having the same answers and making sure that we all had the same objective and understanding of the task at hand. We also thought it was helpful to identify and highlight the areas that don't necessarily require an observation and consider completing those before the observation. And so again, we learned this along the way because again, we had our committee meeting prior to, but then we jumped in, and then afterwards, in retrospect, these were some of the things that kind of came out of our discussion that, if on the front end, if we would have highlighted those areas in advance and really identified the things that didn't need to be taken to the observation, that would have helped us and saved us some time, and we could have streamlined things a little bit easier. So definitely a learning experience that we think you all might find helpful as well when you start utilizing the tool. And allow for extra time so it won't seem rushed, incomplete, or overwhelming. So planning ahead. For us at our Safe Key sites, they can be very busy. There's a lot going on. You might show up and end up having to help out with some things that you didn't anticipate helping out with. And so for us, it was really important to just plan extra time, knowing that, there might be additional questions that come up as you start doing the observation at the actual site. And last but not least in the pre-planning part is there's never a perfect time to do it, so just do it. So we thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is such a great tool. What a great opportunity to kind of assess our own programs, to see areas for improvement. But finding that time can really seem difficult. And we know as an out-of-school time provider, you feel like when the school year starts, you're just rolling. You don't want to have to stop to do a big project like this. And so we always want to say, we'll do it for the summer. We'll save it for the summer, or maybe spring break, or those times when school's not in. And then we find that everything gets pushed to those times, and then you end up pushing off to another time. And so really just do it, jump in and do it full-fledged, and you'll be glad that you did. I feel like you just kind of got to start somewhere. So even if it's not as perfect as you would like it to be, or you don't get the outcome that you expected to get, at least you start somewhere, and there's nothing to lose, essentially. There's nothing to lose by starting the process. So the next slide is just some takeaways from our overall experience, is that we found it helpful to at least just start the discussion about how it could help our programs. The definitions and examples were extremely helpful as they provided clarity and some common terminology for all of us involved. Again, each of us in our different roles have different, we experience our programs on different levels and at different points of view. And so really just having that unified, those definitions really just kind of helped us unify and contributed to our discussions being more valuable and meaningful. So the number scoring was not as meaningful for us as the narrative and the discussions and the notes specific to our program. So yes, the scoring is absolutely helpful and essential as part of the tool, also to kind of see how we measure up with other programs. But for our own internal discussions, we really found it helpful to go over the notes that people were able to make for each specific question and as it relates to their specific observations specific to our program. So that was really, really helpful to kind of tie in those discussions with each item in the tool. And last but not least, the follow-up will require some time and planning, as you just kind of heard in the previous discussion. And so for us, it truly will likely be a summer project where we are able to sit down and take all of the information that we've gathered from the observations and from the assessments and the file reviews and whatnot, and then plan, kind of set an action plan for how to move forward with implementing some of the changes for improvement. So we were truly grateful to be able to participate in the pilot study, and I hope that you find some of this information and some of our feedback from our experience helpful for you all as you jump in and start utilizing the tool. So thank you to the network, and like I said, it was definitely a great experience for us. So thank you.
Thanks, Sharita. That is some awesome feedback, and we're so glad that we have you and some of our other programs that were able to participate in that pilot and give us the feedback that we need to make it a really useful and relevant tool for all of you. And so before we get to our Q&A section, I have put in the chat for you the direct link to our page with all of our quality resources, including this tool. And so just to give you a little bit of a tour of this page, we have our definition of high quality right at the top so that we all have some common language in Nevada about what it means to be a high quality out of school time program. Can you guys still see the page? Yes? Okay. And so if you scroll through the middle of the page, you'll be able to download the entire toolkit. And you'll also get to see an overview of each of the 4 categories. So again, if you're like, well, I don't know what the indicators would look like for something like program structure. Well, there's a highlighted overview of what it means. And then you can actually click and look at just the indicators for the structure, curriculum, and activity section. So you can see what those indicators are, right? And of course, my little menu thingy here is very small and I can't get to it. There we go. And then below this section, there will be a recording of today's webinar. So if you have staff that would really benefit from learning everything that you learned today, they'll be able to see that. It'll be right here. It'll be in blue once it's ready. And we also have the presentation slides for today's presentation uploaded for you as well. There's some additional quality resources, and this list will continue to grow. So as we get new resources from all of our national partners and technical assistance team, these will all be added here for you. So this page is really a one-stop shop for any kind of program quality that you may need to pull from to help your program improve. And so I hope that this page is helpful. If there's anything missing from here that you think you would really need, please feel free to let us know. And with that, I will open the floor up for questions. We'd love to hear any questions or even comments, ideas that you have about how you might want to use this tool for your program. I think everybody's just waiting to hear who wins the free STEM kits. Okay, new rule. I'm not announcing winners for STEM kits until we get at least 3 questions. Go.
I have a few people on the call. I'm sure they could ask a couple of questions.
No pressure, you guys.
Barb, Kaylin, Jose, Sienna.
Oh,
Come on, team. I know you can ask some questions.
This is Lacey. I'm with the Children's Cabinet. And so we actually just recently launched our 21st Century After School and Summer Bridge program. And we're really targeting our high school population and more of our population that's underserved in our community. And so these are definitely kids that are involved in our juvenile justice system and our older kids that are really engaged with obviously employment. And so we're having a hard time finding vocational pathways for these guys that are local. So lots of different places working nationwide and in California and Texas, but not having much success locally. Is anybody aware of any activities or programming that's going on regarding that?
I know there are some groups working with the Nevada Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology to create some workforce pipeline programs for youth that are looking to transition either into higher ed or into careers in the various STEM fields. And so I would check out their website. I will pull it for you and put it in the chat as soon as I can. But they have a list of programs that have been granted awards to create those kinds of programs throughout the state. And so I would advise you to check that and then connect with those programs to see how you can get your youth involved.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Because that is, that was one of the things that we had put into our scope of work and one of the gaps that we would really like to bridge, but we didn't realize how, what lacking resources we have right now in our community for it. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Mars, there's a good question in the chat.
All right, I'd like to do an assessment tool with the students. Yes, to get their feedback on how to make programming more interesting for them. Do we have a tool for that? We do not have a specific tool for students because it's really going to depend on what you want to know from your students. But we can gather some really great resources, and I would advise you on the page that I just shared with everybody to check out both the AIR and the NIOST resources that are on the bottom. Both of those link to a page with a ton of resources. There's also one of those links on the page, which is all about soliciting feedback from stakeholders. And so there's some great tips and tricks and templates in there that you can use. If you're still not finding what it is that you're looking for, please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat and we can schedule some time to figure out what the unique needs of your programs are so that we can help you locate the resource that best meets your need. Other questions? Comments? You're welcome, Barbara. Anyone want to share what they're munching on for lunch, since this is a lunch and learn? Chick-fil-A. Oh, now everybody's jealous. We're all gonna have to go to Julia's place to go get chicken.
I was gonna say chickpeas. I wish it was Chick-fil-A.
I know.
But hummus.
Right? That would be nice. Just for one. Totally. Well, I know that as soon as we log off today, everyone's going to go, wait, I have a question. So if you do, please feel free to reach us, directly via email. We're available anytime. If you're not already signed up, please make sure to sign up for our newsletter. They go out monthly, and there's a lot of free resources that we provide every month, and we change up our resources section in our newsletters, as well as what we provide specifically for STEM through the Million Girls Moonshot initiative that we have going on. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Should you still use Facebook and Twitter, but we're there if you need us. And we also have an online calendar for professional development that spans not just what we're providing, but anything else that we have found and heard about that might be of use to after school professionals. So, all of the OST trainings from Children's Cabinet, they're on our calendar. Some of our national trainings that we get through our partners also on our calendar. So if you're ever looking for I have 3 free hours in my day. I don't know anyone who says that anymore, but I could really benefit from, taking a training during this time. What's available? go ahead and check out our training calendar to see if anything is there.